As Bayer Leverkusen's season falls apart around them, it's time to look back at the season where it catastrophically fell apart in the space of 2 weeks, from a potential treble to nothing, their fateful 2001-2 season. In previous seasons, Leverkusen had come close to winning the Bundesliga 4 times, finishing second in 96-97, 98-99 and 99-2000, as well as finishing third in 97-98. This idea then began about their inability to get the job done, especially with the 1990-2000 season, where Leverkusen lost the title on the final day after losing to newly promoted Unterhaching, which included a Michael Ballack own goal. In 2001, Leverkusen were coming off a 4th place finish in the previous Bundesliga season. Their main business over the summer was ditching Bertie Vogts and replacing him with Klaus Toppmöller as head coach, who is the father of current Frankfurt coach Dino. This Leverkusen team was stacked with several players who would become household names in Ballack, Dimitar Berbatov and Lucio, as well as Z Roberto, Oliver Neuville and Ulf Kurtzen, who would continue to make their names in the Bundesliga. In the 2001-2 season, they were set to go head-to-head with Borussia Dortmund and reigning champions Bayern Munich. Leverkusen would start the season off with a 14-game unbeaten run to send themselves to the top of the table with a comfortable 4-point lead over Bayern Munich. However, a run of 2 wins in the next 7 allowed Borussia Dortmund to catch up. Where were Bayern, you ask? In 6th. Die Werkself would then put together another 10-game unbeaten run to send themselves back into first with a 5-point lead. Surely they couldn't throw it away again. Wrong. In the 3rd game before the end of the season, they lost to Werder Bremen 2-1 to allow Dortmund to close the gap on them to 2 points after they beat Cologne. In the penultimate game of the season, they would then lose to relegation fighting Nuremberg to allow Dortmund to overtake them after they beat Hamburg 4-3. In the final game of the season, Leverkusen would play 4th place Hertha, while Dortmund faced 6th placed Bremen. Dortmund would go 1-0 down early on, while Leverkusen would take an early lead against Hertha, meaning they would be champions. Dortmund would equalise just before half time, but Leverkusen were still mathematically champions. In the second half, Ballack, who on a side note was having a great season, would double Leverkusen's lead, still champions. Then Dortmund would score in the 74th minute to take the lead against Bremen and win the Bundesliga. But it's alright, Leverkusen could redeem themselves a week later in the DFB Pokal final against Schalke. After taking the lead through Berbatov, Leverkusen would concede just before half time, despite dominating for much of the first 45. In the second half, they would collapse and lose 4-2. But it's alright, Leverkusen could redeem themselves 4 days later in the Champions League final against Real Madrid. In the final in Glasgow, Madrid would take an early lead through Raul, before Leverkusen would equalise soon after against the favourites through Lucio. However, just before half time, Leverkusen conceded what is one of the greatest Champions League goals of all time. But it's alright, some of the Leverkusen players such as Ballack could redeem themselves later in the summer at the World Cup in South Korea and Japan. So that's the story of Neverkusen, how Leverkusen defined bottling. 3 competitions, 0 trophies. To make matters worse, Z Roberto and Ballack would both move to Bayern, with Lucio following them a year later. Luckily for Leverkusen, they would finally put an end to the nickname Neverkusen, with the help of Xabi Alonso and their unprecedented unbeaten season and domestic double.